This is Finding My Voice with Wings and Roots. This is a blackout channeling. A little housekeeping real quick before the message. My readings are for entertainment purposes only. I am not a doctor, nor do I give any medical advice. If something comes up during the channeling, please follow your own intuition and do your own research. I'm only passing on what I pick up. Like any readings from anyone, only take what resonates and makes sense for you. I do share personal examples. Sometimes I cry and sometimes I cuss. If I say God, Spirit, or the universe, apply it how it fits for you. My language use may not be the same as yours, and that's okay. I will never reach out to anyone to give any kind of readings, so please be aware of any spammers. I believe in vulnerability and rawness, and I tend to embrace them, especially during my channeling. If you do feel called to, please like and subscribe so these messages can get to who needs them. Before I get into this message, I want to make a few things clear. This one is going to be pretty serious, maybe even intense. I've only just started to dig into it, and it's already pretty intense. This will not resonate for everyone. In fact, a soul came to me and I was conversating with them, and I stopped because Spirit said, record this. And that leads me, that's my sign that this is for someone else also. This may sound harsh, it may sound blunt, and it may be very uncomfortable for some people. If you are sensitive to those sorts of things, this probably isn't the reading for you, or it may just be the one that you need, because sometimes we need those things. I'm just going to give the message the best that I can and keep it as real with you as I can. This is not meant as judgment necessarily. It's not meant as, I don't know, it's just, I'm just trying to keep it real, okay? There are topics that have already come up that I'm trying to think of other words to use instead of certain things that I've heard or flagged. For example, the abbreviation SA. I don't know of another word I can use for another one. So maybe that's not important. I'm not sure. But I just wanted to make it very clear from the get-go that this is going to be different, and that this one is for a very, very select audience, as far as I know at least. But it's going to be pretty raw. So the soul that came to me today, it's hard because I can have empathy for people and I can have compassion for people, and I do. But there is boundaries that need to be put in place. And I recognize where I used to use cop-outs or a victim mentality myself. And I'm very stern with myself when I catch myself doing that, not in a judgmental or harsh way where I'm silencing myself, but more so in a tough love. Like, that's not productive. It's not going to help you if you always see yourself as a victim. Even if a lot of bad things have happened to you, there's ways to get out of it. There's ways to fight through it. On the flip side, if you've done a lot of bad things, there's ways to leave that behind. Okay? And I have to try and be very careful, so this might have a lot of pauses, because I have to be careful how I say this, because there are things that have been shown to me that I do not agree with. I have completely stood against this my entire life. I have fought many times standing by myself against this. So I will pause as I need to make sure I'm, one, keeping myself in check and not coming from a place of judgment. And two, not over empathizing. And for all of those that are very sensitive and empathic, I think you'll get what I'm saying by that, because we can even feel sorry for, or not feel sorry, but feel empathy in some ways for people that have done some really horrible things. Not because of the horrible things that they've done, but a lot of times it's because we know that things were done to them. However, I am a huge believer that what was done to you is not your fault, but what you do to other people is. Okay? It's your responsibility to not pass those on. And this soul in particular, they were defeated, feeling very victim mentality, which, is understandable to a point. But they were like, it was like they were just drowning in quicksand, like they just couldn't get themselves out of it, and they didn't know how, and they don't know what to do, and they feel like they've already done too much, and that in particular, this one was about God, whatever you believe in, but them specifically, it was like God will never forgive them. And what I started telling them is, I just don't think that there's really anything you can do. Again, I have to be careful how I say this. And I have to be true to myself when I say this too. So I have to word it very carefully. I feel like we can turn away from certain things that are really awful. And you can do the work to correct yourself, to heal yourself, and get away from that lifestyle. Another heads up, this is going to be talking about God, talking about spirit, talking about demons, attachments, things of that nature. So if that's, again, something you're completely against, go ahead and check off. This is not for you, and that's okay. But I'm not gonna, it's really important that I don't dance around anyone. So you have to take this if this is for you, and you have to decide if this is for you. You have to decide if this is not for you, and that is your responsibility. I can only deliver the message, okay? And again, this whole session is going to come off very stern. I just have to be blunt about this one. This is a very serious channeling, I guess. Sorry that I keep saying but this person knows that they have demons on their back, okay? There's been brainwashing. There's been a lot of things done to them. And they feel like they've done too much to turn back. Like they're in too deep. I could very easily be judging and be like, well, you did it to yourself. But I'm not going to do that, okay? Because I'm being called to rise higher than that. And I'm being shown a different view. And I have compassion. Although you've done a lot of really, really, really bad and heinous things, whether you believe in karma or not, there's an energy exchange. There's an energy return that happens. I don't care if you believe in karma or not. This is just, there's energy that is returned. What you sow, you reap, okay? Whether it's for you or for someone else. I truly believe that energy that's put out comes back to you. So what you've done, you're still going to have to deal with. There's no easy escape button. And I can feel the sense of defeat. I can feel the heaviness. I can feel the helplessness. I was even shown ending themselves. And I encourage you not to do that for many reasons, okay? One, I believe that when we do that, it doesn't make the problems go away, okay? I believe that our souls come back again because we did not finish the lessons that we signed a soul contract with. You know, we did not finish our duties. So we come back again with more added on. For me personally, when I had those demons on my back, that is what freed me from it. That awareness. I've already gone through too much in this life. I am not trying to restart. I am not trying to deal with even more. I am ready to just get the lessons done and let that go, you know, and that awareness freed me from a lot of pain. Understanding that you're still going to have to stand 10 toes down. You're still going to have to take that ass whooping, whether it's spiritual or, you know, emotional or whatever, you know, like things that you've done don't just go away because you're like, okay, God, I want to be good now. You know, like you still have to reap what you've sown, at least to a point. And you have to show that you're not going to do those things. You have to understand that just because you're changing doesn't mean everyone else is going to be accepting of that. It doesn't mean you automatically get people's forgiveness, because that isn't an inside thing. That is a very personal thing to each person. So you can completely do a 180 and change your life around. You could even be an advocate against what you've done and what you've been through, but that doesn't entitle you to people's forgiveness or inviting you back into their life or their support even, you know. And for what I'm being shown that was done, the road ahead is going to be hard when it comes to getting yourself out of this and correcting this. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to sugarcoat it and be like, oh, it'll be fine. No. The road that I'm seeing is going to be hard because there's been a lot of damage done. And I'm being shown a bigger picture of how you were young when this started. I'm being shown that there was a lot of brainwashing done on you, whether you realize it or not. I even just heard the word sacrifice. You know, I keep hearing this expression, and I've been avoiding saying it because there's a part of me that I know it's true, but I feel like people use it as a cop-out. And as soon as I say it, some of you are going to know exactly what I'm talking about. Hurt people hurt people. While there's truth in it, I get annoyed by the way it's used as a cop-out. But I'm being shown to say this, so I'm going to. I'm being shown this person as a small child. In this particular situation of what I'm being shown, this is a little boy. Maybe 4 to 6 years old, maybe even younger, but this is what I'm being shown. I believe it happened when they were younger too, but they were being abused. They were going through a lot of things themselves that no child should ever have to go through. And for that, I have a lot of compassion, because no child should ever have to go through these things. Then I'm hearing there's a programming that happened that was, whether this child was aware of it or not, they were being programmed to do it to others. This child may or may not have been aware of it, but even if they were aware that they were being taught to do things to other people, like given a reward or something of that nature, you're still a child. They're not going to fully grasp the magnitude of what's going on. And the shame is on the adult that's doing this, okay? Or the teen, or older teen, but in this situation that I'm being shown, it was an adult, okay? Maybe multiple adults, maybe many adults, but it's not the child's fault. The shame doesn't belong to them. So if this was you as a child, that shame isn't yours to carry. Adults know better, especially when they go out of their way to hide it from other people. That's just complete 100% foolproof fact that they know that what they're doing is wrong because they're hiding it, That's why I personally don't allow secrets. I've taught my children we do not do secrets. If anyone tries to keep a secret between you and them, especially another adult, and especially if they tell you it's a secret, don't tell mom, that is an instant red flag. I have given my permission to my children to just bold-faced lie and whatever they need to do in that situation. If they need to say, okay, I won't tell my mom, and then as soon as they come home, they break that, they lie. They have my permission to do that, because if that's what they need to do to get out of the situation, they have to lie, then sometimes kids need to hear they have permission to do that. I guess that's the first step. The first step would be realizing that a child is not at fault for what they had done to them, okay? You need to see yourself through a little bit of compassion, not victim. There's a difference, okay? And yes, you may have been a victim when you were a child, but there's a difference. You want to observe and you want to offer compassion to that small child, your own inner child, and offer them the comfort and love that they needed that they didn't have. Okay, they needed that support. They needed to be heard. They needed to feel seen. They needed to be protected. They needed to feel protected. They needed to know that what was being done to them wasn't their fault. So those are places that I start with. And it's a process, okay? The whole thing is a process. But there are ways to heal. And just like they say, hurt people, healed people help heal people. So there is hope. There is a way to get away from this. So there's a few things that I was going to say, but I was told no. So I'm going to get back on track with what Spirit's telling me to say. When it comes to facing your energy return, I feel like if you just go into it knowing that this is just something that you're going to have to do and have to deal with because of everything. It's like consequences to everything you've done. We are free to choose, but we are not free from the consequences, okay? I've done things that I'm not proud of, especially when I was younger, when I was, 18 to, I don't even know. But yeah, like, for example, when I was 18, I could be very, very, very spiteful. I had no self-respect. I had no self-love. Anyone that I felt backed into a corner by, I came out swinging with daggers. And if I felt like people accused me of certain things, I would do it. And it would be kind of like do it and take 2 pictures, and that was kind of like my mentality. But I would do it in front of people a lot of times, and I would just be like in your face about it. And that's just really awful. It's an awful way to live. It's an awful way to be. And I I got to a point where I was tired of myself, tired of my own behaviors. I wanted to stop. I wanted to change that. I needed to change that because I wanted to be on a different path. And that just wasn't doing anything good for me. It was just causing more chaos. It was causing more pain and drama. And I was inflicting that on myself. I was in situations that I didn't have to be in. And I wasn't handling situations correctly or, appropriately or whatever. And I had to deal with that energy return. And it didn't happen right away. And a lot of times, like sometimes it did, because I usually get instant karma. But in other situations, it came when I didn't expect it anymore. And I had to face it. I had to be like, okay, well, this shit sucks, but I did things that I shouldn't have done. And this is a consequence of my actions. And I have to get through this. It's the only way I saw it. I saw I had to get through it. Sometimes I still had victim mentality about it. Like, oh, why me? But it took a lot of self-awareness and holding myself completely accountable. That some of the stuff that I was dealing with was because of my own actions. And it sucks sometimes. It freaking sucks. It's hard. You feel like you're never going to get out of it. But that's not true. And as an adult, I'm being shown that this person has done a lot of really, really bad stuff. Somebody can argue, oh, there's nothing bad, there's nothing good, blah, 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 whatever. Okay. That's, you do you. But I'm going to keep it real with how I'm seeing it. There was a lot of really, really bad stuff that happened. And to clear that, you're never going to just I don't know. I don't know how I want to say this. I don't know if you're ever going to completely clear. I don't know how that works exactly. But I know you can get past it. But there's no cheat code. There's no pity party that gets you through it. There's no hitting the eject button when shit starts getting real. You have to get through it. And that includes taking the cop out of ending yourself. You're not going to get out of it. You're still... The better thing to do is just go through it. Go through the consequences. Work through it. Own up to your part. And see how you can do better. Use these consequences as examples on why you will not continue on that path. Because those consequences can be temporary or they can become permanent. It's your choice. And for the things that were done, there were relationships that I'm seeing where there was violence. There were, I don't even know if I want to go into specifics because I don't want this to get flagged. But there's a lot of, I don't even know if I can even say the word abuse on here. But there was a lot of abuse in different kinds, okay? Different kinds. Okay. Yes, owning up to it does have an impact. It doesn't excuse things. It doesn't entitle to forgiveness. Again, it doesn't entitle you a spot in a person's life. If you come to someone and you completely own up to everything that you've done and you apologize genuinely from your soul and you go forward from there working on correcting your path, holding yourself accountable, doing the work, dealing with the consequences. That person does not have to forgive you. They do not have to accept you back in their life. And I know I keep saying this, but I have to keep saying it. At the same time, while they do not have to accept you back into their life, it doesn't mean you have to stay stuck. Okay? Because there comes a point when that's not your business anymore. It really isn't your business how they feel about you, if they forgive you, when they forgive you. That's not your worry. Yes, it is nice to be forgiven, but at some point it's out of our control. And we have to just worry about what's in our control at this point. You have to keep pushing forward on your path to correct your life. You can turn things around. Now, there are some people that will put on a show that they're sorry. They'll acknowledge what they did, and then they'll do like a whole, I'm going to say 360, because they might make it look like they did a 180, where they turn their whole life around in the public eye, but underneath it, they're still doing the same stuff. They're still the same person. They're not doing the deep work, okay? You see a lot of people, and this isn't to shit on religion, but I've seen a lot of people that have been hurt, harmed, dealt with a lot of stuff, passed on those behaviors, passed on that pain, passed on that trauma. Then they came forward and were like, oh, I'm so sorry that I did this, da 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 da. And then they turned around and kept doing it, but they just wore a coat of religion to hide them. That's not change. That is not change. And that is not change. That is continuing that cycle and maybe even making it worse because you're owning up to it and you're acting like, okay, I'm stopping. True change is realizing what you've done, what you could have done, those kind of things, and then moving forward away from the actions you took before. If you were in relationships and you would hit your partner, asking for forgiveness and then going back to doing that, that's not change, okay? Wanting someone, pursuing them, being turned down and rejected, whatever you want to call it, and then taking it anyway, that is not change. Change would be liking someone, pursuing them, getting rejected, and accepting that and moving on with peace. We all deal with rejection. Everybody. It's part of life that we have to be able to cope with. No one has a right to take another person's body. Ever. You have to be serious about the change. And you have to be locked in. You have to be locked in on this. Because if you're like, oh, okay, well, I want to change, but then as soon as I get around these people, then, okay, figure that out. Get away from those people. If you notice that you get around certain people and you're easily influenced or they have something over you, why be around those people? You have a choice in the matter. I'm seeing now okay, this is old school. Maybe this is literal. Maybe it's just symbolic. But I'm being shown a VHS tape. And it's being held over someone's head. And the scenario is, let me see if I can say this. The scenario is that this boy, I'm not seeing a full adult yet. It looks like a teenager. And he was told to do certain things to someone else. And then when he was doing those things, he was recorded, whether secretly or not. And that tape is used to try to force them to continue doing bad things to other people. Because if you don't do this to so-and-so, then I'm going to turn you in. And I have the tape. And that's what I'm being shown. One thing that I would say is that person is in possession of something that can get themselves in trouble too. So it's kind of like if they expose that, like they keep threatening to do, their ass is in trouble too, right? So what I'm seeing is they're not very likely, something's trying to block my throat. They're not very likely to really genuinely expose that because they were recording it. They've held on to this. These are minors. These are really bad things. Their voice may even be on it telling someone what to do. They are completely implicated in this tape that I'm being shown. So, one way that I'm being shown is, oh man, owning up to it on your own. I don't know what I want to say because this is so dark and deep. But that's one route you can take, okay? I can't give you full guidance on how to go about this because everybody's situation is going to be different that relates to this. There's different levels of dangerousness to it, and I'm not in your shoes. Nobody can tell you what to do. I am only here to act as a guide and to channel the message that there is a way to correct your path and to turn away from this. There is a way to get the demons off your back. I mean, for this one in particular, praying, asking God for help to get these demons off your back, getting away from the people. A lot of people think that you can heal and still be around people that hurt you. And maybe there are some that can. But I don't believe we fully heal until we get away from those people. I started my awakening and dark night of the soul and all of that in 2012. It was really hard all throughout 2014. And it still stayed hard for a long time after that. I was still around some situations that was, and my situation is not like the one that I'm speaking on. Let me make that clear. My situation is a lot different. Mine was, like, just to be completely vulnerable about it and open about it. Mine was like a cousin accused me of liking a guy that she liked, and I got tired of being accused of it, so I told her that if she didn't stop, I was gonna go get with him. And so she didn't stop, and so I did. I got with him. And it was spiteful shit like that. Two adults consenting, okay? That was my shit. So my situation's different. But, I still had to deal with consequences for my actions. I still had to reap what I had sown. And I've been through a lot of stuff where there was a lot of brainwashing around me and growing up and all that. And a lot of really bad stuff like I'm talking about happened around me and to me. And I got away from everyone, and I've dealt with a lot of slander. I've dealt with a lot of hate, lies being put on me, them trying to put what they've done as if I did it. And I've dealt with a lot of people over 20 years that have believed this. And I'm talking people that were like, I considered best friends that knew me better than anyone else. And they flip-flopped. And now they're on that side and they believe all these horrible things about me, and it just blows my mind, And I still to this day have certain demons that they try to send after me. And I'm not going to go into how I keep them off of me, because I feel like that's something that in the wrong hands, it can be used as a way to prevent people from protecting themselves, and I'm not going to do that. People deserve to be able to protect themselves, and that's exactly what I do. With that said, My point is that I've dealt with having seen actual demons, having seen actual entities and attachments on others. I've seen them coming after me. I've seen all these kinds of things. You have to fight to protect yourself. And when I say fight, I don't mean retaliate. Okay, because there's a difference. Retaliating is you're still in that energy. You're still putting that energy out in the world. You're doing the same stuff. Or even one-upping or worse, you know what I mean? Like, retaliating is not the answer. Protecting yourself, accepting the things that have the poor choices you've made, the bad things you've done, and working to clear that from your future path. Protect yourself. You can get away from these entities. You can break the spells that have been put over you. You can get out of the brainwashing. In fact, if you're listening to this right now, this could very well be proof that you're already breaking through some of the spell work and the brainwashing. Because if you were still under that, you wouldn't be trying to change. Cling to little moments like that. Because there will be times where it's going to feel too hard. Depending on what all you've done, there will likely be moments where you feel like it's never-ending consequences. And you might question hope. Keep going forward. You don't know how long it's going to take. You don't know how hard the consequences are going to be. Prove to yourself that you want to fully get away from that. And do it. When you catch yourself slipping into that victim mentality, why is this happening? Why does this constantly have to happen to me? I'm trying to do better, but nothing's ever letting me. Stop yourself and try and reframe it. It'll be different for each person, so I don't have any examples. I was going to try and throw out an example of reframing it, but I just don't feel like the consequences, at least for most of you, I don't feel like the consequences will be like never ending. I feel like it'll be to a certain point, depending on what all you've done. But we all have to deal with what we've done. Whether it's stealing a candy bar when we're 7 years old at the gas station, whether it's hurting other people, whether it's acting out in spite, acting out in jealousy, we all have consequences and we have to deal with them. So going into this change, knowing that you're going to have to deal with it and you will get through it, that needs to be the mindset, okay? Understanding it's going to suck. It's a consequence, you know? It's meant to teach you. And that's what we're here for, right? We're here for... Earth is supposed to be a school where we're being taught things. And some of us have... I don't know. I was going to say some of us have chosen a harder walk. But there's many things that go into play with that. So, yeah. The biggest test for you is likely going to be... I'm hearing temptation, but not temptation. Well, temptation to... Oh, okay. Okay, so temptation basically is going to be an issue for you, as in when you're getting away from certain things that you've done for a really long time, you might be presented with different ways where you can react the same way you have. And you will be tempted to act the same way that you have. And it's going to take a lot of accountability and self-awareness for you to pause yourself and not react that way. And I'm seeing that that's going to be a struggle. And then another aspect is, I was just shown something. Okay, so when you're knee deep and you're, reaping what you've sown, that there's going to be a temptation or multiple temptations that this is too hard and that it's just easier going back to the other life because you're giving the demons what they want by doing that. So there will be that temptation of giving up and just reverting back to what you were doing, what you're trying hard. And, if you've already been working towards change and things get really hard and you're tempted, you find yourself tempted to do that, to go back, think of all the work that would be lost. Remember why you don't want to do this, okay? Remember why you don't want to be on that path anymore. There is healing available for you, but you're probably going to have to fight for it. You're going to have to fight for it. You're going to have to be accountable. You're going to have to know that it's going to suck. But on the other side of it, it's worth it if you can get yourself there. Personally, I would cut off the people. I would have no contact with any of them. I would start looking at myself. I would go back as far as I could into my memories and observe where things began. Start asking yourself, what did I need that I didn't get? If you needed protection and you didn't get protection, how can I give myself protection now? How can I reassure myself that I'm safe now? If I don't feel safe, how can I become safe? You gotta dig in deep. Healing is deep. Because our traumas and our wounds are deep. And a lot of times, the older we get, the more we shove it down, the deeper it can become. It takes a lot of work, and that's why a lot of people don't change. A lot of people choose escapism, whether that's casual sex, whether that's alcohol, drugs, passing on our traumas. And that's what a lot of times the situation is. The cycle is a lot of times people passing on their traumas. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people that feel powerful when they know that they've been hurt and they're able to pass that pain and that trauma on to someone else. I don't understand that. There are some of us that feel like we know what that pain was and we don't ever want anyone else to go through that. But I don't know. I'm not going to say but. I don't know why I was told to channel this message, because I do have some strong feelings against, I have a lot of strong feelings against the things that I've been shown. So I'm really having to step out of my own ego to deliver this message, because I can be very cutthroat with my views on certain things. And I'm sure that's understandable to most people. But the point in this channeling is to speak to someone or a few people or whatever that don't want to be on this path, and they feel like they weren't put on there by themselves, like they didn't choose this path. And, you can take this to an esoteric way and say, well, we all chose our path, blah, blah, blah. But this isn't about that. This is about a child that had been in an environment, things were done to them. They were shown, taught, programmed, brainwashed, whatever you want to call it, whatever your situation is, to pass these things on from a very early age. And they've passed it on and passed it on. And when they tried to walk away from it, that there was possibly even evidence against them that was used as blackmail. And they felt defeated anytime they would try and turn away from it. I keep seeing needles. And I don't know, I've been trying to ignore that. But somebody maybe was using escapism through that kind of drugs, those kind of drugs. And a lot of times that escapism is because we know it doesn't sit right with us, what's going on, what we're doing, our actions, and we know that there's a lot of trauma and we're trying to run from it, we're trying to hide it, we're trying to silence it. And everybody uses a different form of escapism. You know, some people turn on music, some people turn to drugs, some people don't even intentionally turn to drugs. They just try it thinking it'll be fun for a night, and then, I don't know, maybe it's like it numbs a certain pain. I don't know, but that's not the point, so I'm not going to dig into that one. But what I was being shown is at a somewhat young age, that was how they chose to numb themselves from how much they didn't want to be doing the things that they were doing. And a lot of times there's a lot of fear from the people that you see as authority over you, whether it's like a leader of a cult or someone, you know, that's big in the family, like a matriarch, patriarch, or I don't know, like, you know, but there's, or just the abuser themselves, you know, because a lot of times they are a position of authority, or they've put themselves in that position of authority over you. And so there's this fear of going against them. And there's also a lot of fear of being alone with it, knowing that you don't have support. You know, there's situations where when you're doing a lot of these bad things, you have support. You have a whole team that make you feel like you're not alone because they're all in on it. And then the person that gets away from it, they're cast out, they're shunned, they're talked about, they're slandered, they deal with all kinds of chaos. And it's an example for a lot of those people that are stuck in it, that want to get away from it. That person becomes that example. Oh, you see what happened to so-and-so. No one will ever believe you. You really want to be all alone? You have no idea how many times I've had people try and throw that in my face. That, oh, you're all alone out here. You have no one. No one believes you. And it's like, okay, I'd rather be alone than deal with that. So it's just a matter of gaining the inner strength and fighting the temptation to pick an easy path. Because having an easy or smoother road doesn't always mean it's the right one. In situations like this, oftentimes the right road is the harder one. And sometimes there's not even a path for you. You have to create the path to get out. Just keep fighting for it, because there's a reason that you don't want to do it anymore. There's a reason you're trying to turn away. There is something trying to guide you away from that. And even if you're alone in the physical while you're going through this, sometimes that's how we gain our strength. You're being guided away from these things because your soul knows this isn't the right way. Hurting other people is never the answer. And if you're being guided, you're not alone. Okay? Don't sacrifice yourself for an easy path. It's not worth it. Don't sacrifice yourself in any way for an easier path, or what seems like an easier path, because there are so many illusions to the wrong path. It's just full of illusions. It makes it seem so much better than it actually is. And you know that. That's why you're here. For those of you that the specifics of this don't relate to, you know, those of you that haven't done anything as extreme as what's been mentioned in this, maybe it's, you stepped out on your partner, you had an affair, you cheated in things to get ahead in your career, you stole money, you were doing drugs and robbing people you love, or, other things that you're not proud of, but you're trying to turn away from. Maybe you have a drug addiction and you're trying to get away from it. There's a party that's trying to get away from it. Then obviously the other aspects aren't gonna fit for you. But take what does, because there is still healing. You have a desire to change for a reason. And a lot of times when it comes to addiction, its root is trauma. As hard as it is for any of us, facing our trauma is the way we free ourselves from it. Bearing it down inside of us causes more pain, more turmoil. It can cause physical diseases. And I'm not a medical expert. I'm just saying what I've experienced and what I'm seeing, what I'm channeling. In my opinion, it can cause it to fester, trauma to fester. And while facing it is hard, it's doable. And it's freeing when you get past it, okay? There's something else I needed to say. Our triggers, and I know that's a word that people get annoyed with nowadays because it's thrown around so much, but our triggers are emotional reactions, and that shows us that there's still things inside that are hurting that need that tender love and care. What you get triggered by is your responsibility. It may stem from a trauma that was not your fault, but when our pain comes up like that as a trigger, as some sort of emotional response, it's because it's almost begging us to heal there, to heal from it. So as much as triggers suck, they're also a gift because they show us where our pain is and a starting point to heal. They show us a way to create peace where there was pain. And that's super empowering. It's just the way you look at it. If you get your triggers, your emotional reactions, and you blame everyone else for it, that's never going to help. You can't create this world to cater to our triggers. It just isn't the way it works. Our triggers are ours. It's our responsibility to listen. And when we listen, we give ourselves a chance to heal. With healing, you create peace. And back on the other part of the message, real quick. In regards to forgiveness, if you ask for forgiveness from certain people, they may forgive you, but that also doesn't mean that you have to be, or that they have to have you back in their life. Because a lot of times people think that people won't forgive you and they don't want nothing to do with you. And that if they forgive you, that they're opening the arms to let you back in. Forgiveness is a very personal thing. For me, I view forgiveness as a way of not harboring that energy within myself. I'm not going to pollute my body, my vessel, my soul with anger and hate and harbor unforgiveness that's not going to hurt them. It's hurting me. So I've learned to forgive people because it frees me of carrying that. I don't want to carry that. It's not my problem. It's not my pain. I mean, it's my pain, but it's not my shame to carry. So I want to forgive people because it lightens my load. It gives me peace. But there are many, if not most people that I've forgiven that I will not have back in my life. Because there's just no reason to. I appreciate the few that have come to me and have actually owned up to what they've done and apologized genuinely, and I forgive it and I move forward. There are many that will never acknowledge what they've done, and I've forgiven that too, because that's on them. I'm not going to hurt myself trying to punish them. Me forgiving them is not me condoning what they've done. It is not me saying they're excused from their consequences. It's simply me saying, this is no longer mine to carry. And I release it so that I can have peace. Because I deserve peace, and I've worked really hard to create peace in my life. And that's a big thing. Maybe some people are just naturally peaceful and have a peaceful life. I don't know. But for me, that was not the case. I never thought that I would ever have peace in my life. Not genuine peace. I never did. I thought it was just some people were lucky and others weren't. I never in a million years would have thought that I'd be living in a state of mind where I'm at peace. And I've worked so hard and created this for myself through healing, through forgiving, through shedding things that I don't need to carry on me. And that's still a work in progress. I'm still shedding things. I'm still shedding physical, emotional, baggage. It's still a process, but I've come so far with it that I genuinely have peace in my life, and I protect that peace now. So if someone were to come to me from my past and own up to everything that they had done, genuinely apologize, ask for forgiveness, but then want to be back in my life, the chances of that happening, I will forgive. I will let go of it if I haven't already, and I'll move forward. But if somebody has caused a bunch of chaos in my life in the past, I don't see a need for them in my present or my future. And that's okay. So if you're on the flip side of it, be okay with people not accepting you back in their life, because that is part of it. People have a right to protect themselves. Even if you've changed, good. Keep changing. Keep bettering yourself. It may not fix what was done. It may not take their pain away from them. It may not heal their wounds. But it stops you from creating worse. Or not worse, but more. It stops you from creating more pain in others. You deciding, I'm not going to do these things anymore, absolutely makes a difference. Like I said, it may not change the past, what is already done, but it protects the future. It changes and helps because it stops you from passing on those same things, okay? So I just hope that you keep going with it, and I hope that you stick it out through the change. And I hope that you get yourself to a point where you are on the other side of it. And that, you're able to really genuinely, authentically leave whatever lifestyle you're trying to get away from. Because it is possible.